Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into some really persistent questions about Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination.
That's right. We're focusing on arguments drawn from this source text we have, pasted text, that challenge the official story, the lone gunman theory involving James Earl Ray.
Exactly. And our mission here really is just to walk you through the key points from this source that suggest, well, maybe a conspiracy was involved. Get you familiar with that side of the argument.
Yeah, just laying out what the text presents, not, proving anything definitively ourselves. It's about understanding the perspective in the source.
Okay, so first up, the source highlights the fact that James Earl Ray, he never actually went to trial. Why is that so significant for people who doubt the official narrative?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because he pleaded guilty, which usually ends things. But the source argues that because there wasn't a full public trial where evidence is presented and challenged, it kind of leaves the door open for suspicion. Like maybe a trial would have revealed things someone didn't want revealed. It fuels that cover-up idea.
And Ray himself, I mean, his story is central here. He confessed initially,
I do.
but then almost immediately, and for years after, he insisted he was innocent. He said he was, what, set up, part of a bigger conspiracy?
That's a huge contradiction, and the source really leans into that. Why confess if you're innocent? And why fight so hard afterwards, claiming conspiracy? It casts, a lot of doubt on that original confession, what was really going on there.
Okay, moving on. Pasted text talks about Loyd Jowers, his statement in 1994. This seems like a major moment.
Oh, absolutely. Jowers ran a restaurant near the assassination site, and he came forward publicly years later, claiming he was involved in a conspiracy.
And he specifically named Ray as a scapegoat, right?
Exactly. Someone claiming direct firsthand knowledge and pointing fingers. I mean, that's pretty explosive. For those arguing conspiracy, Jowers provides a concrete claim, not just theory.
And that connects to the next point the source brings up, the civil trial.
Yeah, the King family actually sued Jowers.
Right. It wasn't a criminal trial, which is an important distinction. But the source emphasizes that a jury in that civil case found Jowers liable.
And more than that, they concluded that government agencies like the FBI, CIA, Memphis police were part of a conspiracy to kill Dr. King and frame Ray.
Now, the legal standard is different in civil court preponderance of the evidence, not beyond a reasonable doubt.
Correct. It's a lower bar.
Yeah.
But still, the source points out, having a U.S. jury formally state that government agencies were involved in a conspiracy, well, that's incredibly significant, regardless of the type of trial. It definitely challenges the official lone gunman narrative.
Pasted text also briefly mentions the FBI surveillance of Dr. King. We know J. Edgar Hoover's FBI watched him very closely. How does that fit in?
The source uses it as context, basically. This intense monitoring, sometimes bordering on harassment, creates a backdrop where suspicion of government motives, maybe even involvement, seems more plausible to some. It feeds into that narrative.
It suggests motive, perhaps, or at least an environment where something like that could happen.
Sort of, yeah. It adds another layer to the questions people have. Why were they watching him so intensely?
And finally, the source makes a point of highlighting the King family's own stance.
Very important point.
They have consistently, for decades, believed James Earl Ray was innocent. They believe it was a conspiracy.
Yeah, and the source underscores the weight of that. The family closest to Dr. King, his own wife and children, they don't accept the official story. Their conviction, coming from such a personal place, adds significant, emotional and moral weight to the doubts.
So just to be really clear, like our source material does, this deep dive has focused only on these specific arguments presented in pasted text that suggest a conspiracy.
Exactly. We haven't looked at the counter-arguments or the evidence that does point to Ray acting alone. That's a whole other discussion.
Right. Our goal was just to unpack these points from the source.
So to quickly recap the main arguments from the text we looked at. Ray never got a trial, he confessed, then recanted, claiming conspiracy. Loyd Jowers claimed direct involvement. A civil jury found a conspiracy involving government agencies. The FBI was heavily surveilling King, and his own family believes Ray was framed.
That's quite a list of unresolved issues presented in this source.
It really is. And it leaves you, the listener, with a big question, doesn't it? Thinking about just these points raised in the source material. What does it mean when such a major historical event still carries so many persistent questions and these kinds of serious allegations decades later? What does that suggest about our understanding of history and maybe even justice itself? Something to think about.